oh, my 5 to 9 routine before my 9 to 5. I don't give a... I will not be up before the sun.
The self-help genre is a very troubled genre. You know, because there's a lot of people engaged in self-help that really haven't done shit.
Wake up at 5 a.m., take a cold shower, meditate for an hour, hit the gym, journal, read 50 pages, and you need to get that done all before breakfast. Does any of this sound familiar? We're living in an era where self-improvement has become a ruthless competition, where every moment not spent optimizing feels like failure, where influencers are selling us the promise of becoming ultra-human if only we follow their morning routine, buy their course, or join their mastermind. But here's the paradox that David Burks captures perfectly in this quote. We live in a culture that teaches us to promote and advertise ourselves and to master the skills required for success. But that gives little encouragement to humility, sympathy, and honest self-confrontation, which are necessary for building character. So the more aggressively we chase self-improvement, the more we seem to lose ourselves. Humanity has become performance-based, prioritizing external validation like likes, views, titles, and accolades over the quieter, deeper levels of personal growth and wisdom. Welcome to what sociologists are calling the achievement society, where your worth is measured by your productivity and personal development has been reduced to a series of metrics on a spreadsheet. And for a more formal definition of what an achievement society is, it's labeled as a societal model where constant striving for achievement and success is prioritized, often leading to pressure to constantly perform and be more productive, potentially resulting in exhaustion and burnout. While skills that bring success and attention are undeniably valuable, I will never argue against that, they can overshadow virtues that don't visibly pay off in immediate rewards. I want you guys to think humility, empathy, and like deep introspection. So modern society rewards visibility over morality. This leads to an imbalance where we prioritize appearing successful over genuinely becoming thoughtful or reflective individuals. Due to this success, beauty, discipline, and ambition aren't just goals anymore, they are requirements, especially if you want the most out of life. With the big message being, at least the one that I've taken away from all this, if you're not constantly improving, then you're falling behind. And if you're falling behind, then you're failing. And honestly, it's no wonder that 1 in 5 adults are lonely. How could anyone have time for anyone or anything else when they're busy trying to become an ultra human? Now, I just want to make a disclaimer. This is purely my opinion of how social media culture has influenced folks' journey on the path to self-improvement. However, we're definitely living in an age where anyone can broadcast their thoughts, good or bad, to millions. So naturally, wellness has become less about actual well-being and more about aesthetics and engagement metrics, where being seen as doing the work has become more important than actually doing the work itself. I know, it's crazy. Now, I have a big problem with this because historically, self-improvement was spiritual and philosophical. It was about transforming the soul via fasting, reflection, silence, reading, maybe even a little bit of suffering. But today, it's just about achievement, productivity, and optimization, oftentimes through a product or service that is being offered by some wellness brand or influencer. The imbalance of prioritizing achievements can and will lead to burnout and isolation. This is because genuine fulfillment, majority of the time, comes from depth rather than just generic outward milestones or accomplishments, right? So the traits that actually matter in self-development, think humility, sympathy, honest self-reflection, are being talked about less in favor of buzzwords and ultra routines. Now, in this video, I aim to present a healthier approach to holistic self-mastery, where we'll learn how to balance the outer game, which is achievements, status, and skills, with your inner growth, empathy, humility, and mindfulness. And just as a quick disclaimer, I use self-improvement, self-mastery, and self-actualization interchangeably throughout this whole video. Now, I understand those can mean a bunch of different things, but just for the sake of this video, they mean the same thing. Now, before we jump all the way in, I gotta ask you to subscribe if you aren't already, and go down right below that like button and click on the link to my website where you can sign up for a free newsletter where you'll get these videos a week earlier sent directly to your email inbox. Without further ado, we're just gonna jump right in. The health and wellness industry has ballooned up to a $1.8 trillion global market. And obviously, it didn't used to always be like this. As you may suspect, personal development can be traced back thousands of years to ancient civilization. In the East, teachings like Taoism, Buddhism, and Hinduism emphasize self-awareness, mindfulness, discipline, and inner peace. While in the West, Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca encourage virtues like wisdom, temperance, and resilience, framing self-improvement as a moral and philosophical pursuit focused on character and inner development. And if you're interested in these two books, this is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Highly recommend reading this one. And this one is Letter on Ethics by Seneca. It's just letters that he wrote to a friend, giving general life advice and spouting some philosophy along the way. You can almost just read it as if it was a journal entry and just read one letter or so a day in the morning. That's what I like to do. I'll leave a link to both of these in the description below. But after the Stoics, right, we saw self-help taking a different route in the 19th and 20th century. Most give Samuel Smiles credit for birthing the self-help genre with his book simply titled Self-Help that was released in 1859. Later on, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People in 1936 brought self-development into mainstream culture. Blending psychology and social skills into an easy-to-read package, many people still have this book on the Mount Rushmore of self-mastery books. Now, due in large part to Dale Carnegie himself and many others that popularized the self-improvement niche, it quickly exploded in the late 1900s and has continued its meteoric rise up until today. With the rise of technology, self-improvement moved into the multi-channel industry we know of today. From online courses to life coaches, viral gurus to wellness influencers, everyone has access to endless resources promising to unlock their full potential. The good part about that is that it made self-development that much easier to consume and practice. Unfortunately, it also made it easier than ever to give out that advice. The barrier to entry for giving self-advice has never been lower. Because of this, the self-improvement market has inevitably been commercialized, transforming authentic self-improvement into another product to sell. Brands, influencers, and celebrities are eagerly positioning themselves within the wellness space, not because they deeply care about health or personal growth, but because it taps into the fundamental human desires: success, acceptance, happiness, and fulfillment. These universal needs are potent motivators because everyone at some level grapples with insecurities and personal dissatisfaction, so it's relevant pretty much for everyone walking on planet Earth. Sadly though, the commercialization of self-development or life maxing began thriving on our universal vulnerabilities, leveraging them as pain points. And if you don't know, a pain point in marketing terms is a specific problem causing distress, frustration, or dissatisfaction for potential customers. Businesses strategically present themselves as holding the keys to resolving these deeply personal struggles. And this is honestly business 101, so I can't even really be that mad about it. But Hormozi has a famous quote that kind of illustrates this a little bit. He says, "I have a saying I use to train sales teams. The pain is the pitch." And this is from his book, $100 Million Offers. I made a summary video for this exact book in my Hella Millions book club. That was like last year or something like that. It's pretty cringe, but I'll still link it up here somewhere if you're interested in watching that. But what he's essentially saying is that if you can accurately identify and articulate the pain a prospect is experiencing, they will almost always buy what you are offering. So in other words, if businesses and influencers can effectively magnify and exploit your insecurities, aka your desire to be happier, richer, healthier, or more accepted, then they can create an irresistible sales funnel. Perfect example of that is this.
The highest paid nutritionist in California, yet no one believes him when he says these things. If you drink coconut water daily, it'll get rid of your face fat due to its high potassium content.
No.
Rid of all your expensive creams, just start using beef tallow as your moisturizer. It's 5 times more effective at getting rid of acne scars than retinol.
No.
You drink watermelon juice in the morning, it'll give you more energy than actual coffee does.
Nope.
And ladies, start eating the pomegranate seeds because it'll make your tatas less saggy and actually perkier.
No.
Bon tea is amazing to snatch your waist.
No.
But my favorite hack that my dad has got me on is definitely taking colostrum powder. Take it every single morning in my water. It doesn't taste like anything and it keeps me bloated the entire day. Plus, because it helps with your gut biome. It'll clear up your skin, make your hair grow longer, your nails grow longer, and it's amazing for immunity too. This is the one he recommends to all his clients.
Well, considering the only link in her profile leads to that product, I think I might know why she made this video. 357,000.3 people liked this video. Hey, it's me from later. That video blew up so much, I'm getting tagged and stuff like this.
My dad's one of the highest paid nutritionists in Florida, yet no one believes him when he tells them these things. If you drink coconut water daily,
Yep, people are basically copying it word for word and then linking stuff in the TikTok shop.
The guy that was replicating the video, was he skinning a potato? Like, just people will go to extreme measures to sell anything online, especially with this whole affiliate marketing thing that's been going on. But that video perfectly aligns with the pain pleasure principle. People make choices to avoid or decrease the pain and make choices that create or increase pleasure. So while this has not only weaponized self-improvement to sell products, it's also reinforcing unrealistic standards on the consumer, implying that to achieve X goal, you have to be willing to do or purchase Y thing to achieve that goal. This in turn spawns a cycle where you have more insecurities, more products, more profits for these businesses and influencers. It's just all around bad for us, right? Bad for the people at the end of the line. This is then fueled by the fact that social media is so heavily relied upon in today's society. We were never prepared to have this much access to this many people with the few clicks on our phone. This poses the question of how do we navigate in the digital world with all of this toxic advice? The answer to that is the saying as old as time: know thyself. Before consuming or purchasing anything wellness related, ask yourself these 3 questions. What is my vision and aspirations for myself? Does this thing help me achieve that vision? What do you stand to gain from that thing? This self-awareness check will become your internal filter. It will become your vessel for navigating the process that is self-improvement. You might even be wondering, with the rise of AI, this is only going to get worse and harder to filter through. And I completely agree. You have to be selective on the type of content you engage in during your journey. If you're receiving any advice online, especially social media, and it has that TikTok shop link at the bottom, it's probably a no-go.
This message is for one person and one person only. If you're that dude who sits in his car in a doctor's costume to push TikTok shop supplements that don't work, I want you to know if I ever see you in public, it's on site.
It's exhilarating to come closer and closer to self-discipline. You make your body go and everything hurts. Then you look back in awe at the self, at what you've done. It just blows your mind. It leads to ecstasy, to self-fulfillment. If you win these battles enough, that battle against yourself, at least for a moment, it becomes easier to win the battles in the world. That is a quote from the book Flow, which I know I keep referencing this book, but it really is that good. At its core, self-mastery is about control and conscious growth. And as one definition puts it, you have the ability to control yourself in all situations, and you move forward consciously and steadily towards your goals. You know your purpose, and you have the self-discipline needed to do things in a deliberate, focused, and honorable way. That definition of self-mastery perfectly captures why we're naturally drawn to it. It promises those essential human needs that we talked about a little earlier: safety, security, loving and belonging, esteem, self-actualization, right? These are all fundamental desires, and they aren't random. They directly map onto what psychologists have identified as our core human needs. These needs are what we naturally seek to fulfill and is what motivates our behavior. And it's best illustrated by Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which you can see right here. Now, without going too deep, we start at the bottom of the pyramid with basic survival needs. And as these are met, we naturally progress towards higher goals: social connection, self-esteem, and ultimately what Maslow called self-actualization, which is basically just living up to our full potential. Maslow describes this as living up to one's potential and becoming who we really are, who we truly are. But here's what modern self-improvement culture gets wrong. You can't skip steps. You can't just jump straight into self-actualization through a 30-day challenge or a miracle morning routine. There is nothing that can get you from point A to point B instantly. The journey up the pyramid is gradual, messy, and deeply personal. You need to fulfill the bottom layer before you get to the next one. And to me, this is where self-mastery becomes both a gift and a curse. And I think a personal anecdote will help crystallize this. When I was a youngin' and discovered the world of self-improvement, I tried a lot of shit: running, basketball, fasting, reading, cold showers, waking up at the crack of dawn. I really literally tried everything and tried to optimize everything in my environment at some point or another. And naturally, some things stuck and other things didn't. But what I didn't realize was happening at the time was during the process of me trying to become, or basically find myself, a mental checklist was being programmed into my mind. If I didn't check off these new habits or progress in my new hobby on a daily basis, then I would consider that day a failure, even though I was a full-time student in a relatively tough major with a full-time job and doing my best to maintain a semblance of a social life. Now, this caused me a ton of stress, as one could imagine. So I started thinking something was wrong with me. Everyone on my feeds was perfect. From everything that I saw, they were getting all that stuff done and more. I used to think, how the fuck are people doing so much with the same 24 hours as me? That's when I realized that the actual self-improvement that the internet pushed on me was causing my downfall. I completely ignored the fact that I was in college, getting decent grades, working full time, and I had my own apartment, my own shit, my own whip. I had to sit there and really reflect, like, damn, like, I am high-key going dumb though. 15-year-old me would have thought I was him. So when I had that reflection of, damn, I'm actually him, I'm actually doing pretty well, why do I feel so bad? Well, it's because I was comparing my life to everyone else's, or the things at least that I had saw online, and it was causing me to feel anxious and have anxiety. And that's what I want folks to realize, is that the outside noise, you have to filter through it, and realize that as you climb Maslow's pyramid, you'll inevitably need to seek knowledge and guidance beyond your immediate circle. This means turning to books, mentors, online resources, and yes, social media. And that's where the trap lies. At least it did for me. So as you ascend Maslow's pyramid, you will need to take in outside information as you continue to level up. It's just inevitable. You don't have all the answers in your brain, right? You need to intake things to be able to process it and then learn from it. So this is where you can either buy into the ultra human wellness side of the algorithm and shame yourself when you don't examine every single food label that you purchase, or understand that you need to develop your internal filter. You must be able to reject performative wellness for the sake of just being some final form of yourself. It took me a while to understand this, and even longer to source what an actual wellness foundation looks like. So instead of trying to check off endless lists of optimization habits, I focused on some core principles. And as a disclaimer, your foundation and your principles can and will look way different than mine. But regardless, here are some general rules to live by to help get you started. And the number one box that we have to check off daily is physical well-being, right? So simple movement daily, like let's say 10K steps, and basic nutrition. Just focus on protein. Make sure that you get a lot of protein in. Then the next box that we need to check off is mental growth, right? So daily learning through reading or meaningful conversation. Now, I said it in the past, but just focus on reading 10 pages of a good book a day. I think that's a great starting point. Number 3 is emotional balance, right? Regular reflection and self-compassion. Now, don't overly critique yourself, but be stern when looking in the mirror. The 4th box we need to check is social connection, making time for genuine relationships. It's not as cool as you think being a lone wolf. Trust me on that. And our 5th and last box that we need to check is purpose. Align your daily actions with your core values or your long-term vision. And I hope to make a video about that one day. If you're interested, let me know in the comments. I think vision and the anti-vision is literally everything in today's world. So developing one is essential. But the beauty of this approach is that it's very flexible. Some days you might excel in all areas, which is bravo, good shit. But other days you might only manage 1 or 2. Both are perfectly fine here because real self-mastery isn't about perfection, nor should it be. It's about progress. Optimizing every hour of your day and beating yourself up over non-checked to-do lists isn't the answer to self-actualization. And here's a great quote from James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits. Your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. And your clutter is a lagging measure of your cleaning habits. You get what you repeat. And now if I had to continue that quote by James Clear to sum up this section of the video, it would be this: your self-mastery is a lagging measure of your patience, compassion, and willingness to accept yourself as a work in progress. If you don't check yourself and celebrate your little wins along the way, then you will inevitably be reduced to stress and burnout. You can't accomplish everything inside of 6 months, no matter what the gurus tell you online, but you can accomplish a lot just by getting organized, right? This is a lifelong race, one that should be handled with care and patience.
And once I lose 20 pounds, I'll love my body. And once I love my body, I'll feel beautiful. And once I feel beautiful, I'll feel loved. And once I feel loved, I'll feel free. And life will feel just as light as my new body. But once I've adjusted to my new reflection, my eyes narrow in on the new narrowness, and the shadows of my slim silhouette step into a harsh light fluorescence of my flesh, illuminating imperfections not previously in existence. And under newfound scrutiny of critical eyes, I realize once I tone it up and restrict more and eat less, I'll feel so much better about myself. And yes, I know not to compare, and social media isn't real. I'm really self-aware. But maybe in my subconscious and from the repetition of these images over and over again in my feed are getting to me as I convince myself to believe that what I'm doing is healthy, and some measures I take are healthy.
So that video that you just saw was a poem by Heids Becker on TikTok, and the comments on that video are very telling, right? With some people saying literally at my goal weight now and it's not enough. Another person saying I'm in this endless cycle. Someone else saying I've lost 100 pounds and that feeling of a new me gas has faded and now I feel like it was all a lie. This really hit home. The accomplishment doesn't feel like such a win. Someone else said this was me for years. Body dysmorphia was a monster for me to overcome. And what these people are describing is the illusion of the final form. The same way there is no perfect house, no perfect car, or a perfect family, there is no perfect you. There is no version of you that is content and ready for every single thing that comes up in your lifespan. So if you're getting into wellness because you think one day everything will be peaches and cream, then I have to stop you right there, right? Wellness is a lifelong struggle, one that has many ups and downs. There is no single accomplishment or goal you can hit right now that will lead you to full self-mastery. You could literally hit the lotto tomorrow and still be overweight, have family problems, or a reactionary personality. So that degree, that new job, that promotion, that new apartment or house, that new lease, whatever it is, right? Once you settle in, you realize you're still you at the core of all of this. There is no final you. You are running on an infinite marathon that is specifically tailored to your life story. So accept this and go about life as if you are constantly evolving, because you are. And there is a quick read on the 7-year rule that is massive in understanding this concept. So the author David Sparks says, years ago, I encountered a fascinating concept in a book by the Dalai Lama. Every 7 years, human beings transform into entirely new versions of themselves. This idea stems from the biological principle that our bodies replace virtually all their cells over a 7-year cycle. The person you are today doesn't share a single cell with a version of you from 7 years ago. This is, of course, a generalization, as some cells regenerate much faster and others a little slower. But there is something profoundly liberating about this constant state of transformation. We often become fixated on our past, mistakes we've made, opportunities we've missed, harms inflicted upon us and by us, or wounds we've suffered. But what if we truly internalize that the person who experienced those things no longer exists in a physical sense? I recently spoke with a friend who was dwelling on something that happened 30 years ago. Why do you care? I asked him. That was 4 versions of you ago. That person doesn't exist anymore. Move on. This perspective applies equally to our future selves. The version of you that will exist 7 years from now hasn't even formed yet. So why not focus your energy and attention on the present moment? As you read these words, you are uniquely yourself, different from who you were a moment ago and who you'll become in the next. By embracing this present version of yourself, you release yourself from the bounds of history while simultaneously doing the greatest possible favor to your future self. We exist in a perpetual state of transformation, cellular, psychological, and spiritual. When we recognize and honor this constant evolution, we free ourselves to live more fully in the internal now. Adopt the 7-year rule. You'll be doing yourself a favor. Now, I love the 7-year rule because it reminds us of the truth that you are neither defined by your past, nor are you bound to some imagined perfect future self. True self-mastery isn't about reaching a final form. It's about showing up in the present moment again and again with intention. So while the wellness industry sells endpoints and transformations, real growth happens in the quiet moments between milestones. It's in choosing your direction rather than fixating on destinations. It's in embracing the journey, good days, bad days, and all the uncertain days in between. This is the paradox of self-improvement, accepting that there is no final version of you to achieve. There is only this moment, this choice, and this next step forward on your unique path to your unique vision. So I hope this helped a little bit on your journey to self-improvement, self-mastery, and self-actualization. If you're still here, leave me a like, drop me a comment on what you think. Subscribe if you haven't already. Again, hit that bio for all the resources and to sign up for my newsletter. I will see you guys next week for issue number 6.